I have a problem. Capcom, one of my favorite gaming companies. Some would even use slurs to describe me like shill or fanboy. But don't worry, I'm reclaiming those terms. But if I hear you call me anything but Shilla with an A and not an ER, you're gonna be sorry and find a copy of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles under your pillow when you wake up. Jesus! I love Capcom. Anyone who knows me can tell you that. But I only really started falling in love with Capcom around 2015 to 2016. They were releasing great game after great game on the 3DS like Resident Evil Revelations, the Ace Attorney trilogy, and Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice. At the time, an unlocalized spin-off prequel of Ace Attorney, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. If you had a 3DS in 2015 and weren't playing Capcom's lineup, you were missing out on some great variety. There wasn't a whole bunch there, but it could be argued there isn't a single bad Capcom game released for the 3DS. There's some games with problems for sure, maybe not the best, but if you're a Monster Hunter fan or an Ace Attorney fan, you were eating pretty damn good on the 3DS. The 3DS is where my love of Capcom started with Ace Attorney. I had actually played Monster Hunter 4U before Ace Attorney, but it hadn't clicked for me until later in my life to truly be a Monster Hunter mega fan. Ace Attorney was essentially my gateway drug into crack and heroin that was Devil May Cry and Monster Hunter. I had always known of Devil May Cry, YouTubers have been talking about how good DMC3 was for years, but I never had a PS2 growing up, so coming around the beginning of 2018, I bought the HD collection and played the first game. I thought it was pretty neat. It's very interesting as a game that started the hack and slash genre essentially, leading to iconic games like God of War, Metal Gear Rising, Bayonetta. The DNA is all right here. As primitive as it is, I still had more fun with this game than I did dozens of other games I played on other consoles directly inspired by this series. Devil May Cry 1 won't be anything I write home about, but it's a game I deeply respect and like a lot. I didn't even end up playing Devil May Cry 3 until after the Devil May Cry 5 trailer dropped and I saw the hype around that game explode. And after playing 3 and 4 before its launch, God, these games were so worth not only the hype, but also worth the wait for longtime fans of this franchise. I'm almost pissed I didn't play these games way sooner. These are, without a doubt, the best action games I've ever fucking played. So with 3 series under my belt, I kept on playing. I played a bit of Street Fighter, I played Marvel vs. Capcom, I played Resident Evil, I played some Mega Man, I played Dead Rising, I played Lost Planet, and while not every single one of these games or series hooked me, the rate at which they hooked me like nothing else is absurd. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and 3 are in my top 10 fighting games, if not top 5. Dead Rising 1 is great, and Dead Rising 2 is even better in my opinion. This is such a damn good game. Resident Evil isn't my favorite franchise, but God, am I in this for the long haul. Resident Evil 7 is a landmark horror game alongside Resident Evil 1, 2, 4, and their remakes. That's 7 games right there, all worth playing, which doesn't even include fantastic games like Code Veronica, 3, 5, and 8. I don't like all of these games as much as the first 7 I listed, but damn do I love Code Veronica and 8. Monster Hunter. I don't even know where I'd be without Monster Hunter today. While I'm not the biggest fan of modern Monster Hunter compared to the older titles, I'd be lying in saying Monster Hunter World or Rise are bad games. Hell, I love Rise and Sunbreak far more than I do World and Iceborne. Generations Ultimate is unironically in my top 10 games of all time. I have put over 900 hours in this game and I'm still not truly finished yet, and I'll put in another damn 900, dude. Dragon's Dogma? Oh my god. I've never played a game I struggled to get into so hard. I dropped this game like 7 times, restarting it over and over again because I couldn't get into it, but something kept dragging me back in, and one day, I finally committed myself to beating it. I felt crazy playing this game trying so hard to beat it. It feels like a game for insane people. Yeah, so I beat Dragon's Dogma. This game fucking rocks. This could be one of the best games of all time if you're mentally ill enough. And there are still so many Capcom games I haven't played that people still say are fantastic. Okami, Onimusha, Power Stone, like 10 different Capcom versus games, Dino Crisis, Rival Schools, Sengoku Basara, Breath of Fire, Beautiful Joe. There's even games and series I love that I haven't played yet. Capcom has an insane track record in the game industry that most would dream of. But there's this weird pattern around Capcom releases. Around 2008 to 2016, Capcom got not only a lot of negative press, but most of their games were reviewed kinda poorly. Anywhere from widespread dislike to outright hatred for this company. And while Capcom obviously has some great games from that time period, it seems that people seem to hate Capcom around this period of time more than liked, which is kind of crazy for a company with this kind of backlog, and has been almost one of the best companies again in recent years for quality in video games. So I've decided to go back to the Capcom Dark Ages, where people called them Crapcom and refused to buy their games, and even when the game seemed promising, had some sort of monkey's paw curling to curse the game to have a bad reputation, ruining what could have been a good game. I want to know if it was really as bad as people make them out to be, or if there's genuinely something good in these games that were discarded by the masses at the time. Around 2008, Capcom was going through a transitional phase. Capcom wanted more money and more Western-focused experiences. Japan, being an island country, only has so much growth, so a lot of Japanese companies and industries at some point have to go international. It's just a fact of the market. There's only so much growth you can have if you focus exclusively on a small island country that speaks its own language. Focusing on expanding into English automatically expands your possible growth infinitely. But games are a little more complicated than that. Not only do Western markets differ from the Japanese market in what they like to play, it also influences what they choose to play. It's a bit stereotypical, but it's based on reality. The Western gaming audiences love violence, vulgarity, cool explosions, and action. God of War, Call of Duty, Halo, GoldenEye, Mortal Kombat. As cool as Mario is, the average person in the West is more likely to get into a first-person shooter or any sort of game that is cool and mainstream than a slow horror game like Resident Evil. And you can see this slight shift in Capcom's game design with the release of the Xbox 360, coming in the first year of its launch, Dead Rising. Coming out in August, closing into a full year after the 360's launch in 2006, it stars an American man in an American mall killing zombies and going up against the government and the military while also tackling a zombie horde with anything he can. It's still got some Japanese flair to its gameplay and ideas, and it's unbelievably campy, but to this point, outside of Resident Evil, it's probably the most American thing Capcom has ever made. From its writing to its gameplay, it feels a bit arcadey, but American arcadey. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it, but if you've played the game, you get what I mean. It's a great game, but Capcom was still trying to change it up. In 2008, though, Devil May Cry 4 releases, and it's clearly rushed, unfinished, and buggy. It's still a great game. Its systems are arguably some of the best in the series, you have multiple playable characters, and while buggy, none of those bugs are making the game unstable. They are improving the game. Devil May Cry 4 is the Super Smash Bros. Melee of action games. It's a bit clunky, broken, and far from perfect, but the exploits and the ways you can play this game also give it an infinite skill ceiling. I pride myself on being very good at Devil May Cry. I'm not like a top 1% player, but I am better than the average player, and I can't do 80% of the shit that these people do in DMC4. And this is because Capcom pretty much screwed over development of this game while shifting their strategies. DMC4 was successful, but not as successful as Capcom would want, as Devil May Cry was always a smaller title for a niche audience. It would never sell 10 million copies in its first year, it only sold 2 million in its first year, which you might as well tell Capcom to jump off the nearest bridge at that point. Making 20 million instead of 100 is justification for seppuku at Capcom in 2008, so we need to change our methods stat. So, Capcom was in talks with several North American and European studios in order to start making more Western-focused games. And the first to come out was Bionic Commando. Growing up, I had a Capcom Classics collection on Xbox, and I loved playing the original Bionic Commando. It was a great 2D platformer shooter type game thing, and I had never even heard of this game until about 2014. Every game I talk about today will have spoilers for the plot, but you shouldn't care about the plot of this game, because it's not good. Bionic Commando visually looks no different from the brown and gray filter games of the early 7th gen games it's clearly inspired by. It's vulgar, bland, and its best element is extremely flawed. I played it for the first time for this video, and my god was I mixed on this game. This game around release had relatively mixed reviews as well, and I agree with them. This game has a lot of cool ideas and doesn't execute upon them well, almost at all. The protagonist, Spencer, is a wooden board of a man with no personality or charm. His only goal is to get his wife after the government arrested him for having a bionic implant that they gave him to specifically fight wars. And they say he'll get to see his wife after he finishes this mission for him after a bunch of other bionic enhanced people start committing terroristic acts in the protest against the government. At least I think. I stopped caring. I was listening and I was watching what was going on, but I was not cognizant. Don't take that the wrong way, I was sober playing this. I beat this game at 11 p.m. on a Friday, and I woke up the next day and completely forgot I beat it or even played it. I have vague memories of this game and things I did, but whenever I think about it, I think how fun yet frustrating the swinging is and wife arm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, like in the last 10 minutes of the game, they just revealed that your bionic arm is actually made of your dead wife. If you've heard about Bionic Commando 2009, it's genuinely a good chance that the only thing you know about it is how dogshit of a plot twist wife arm is. I mean it. Just Google wife arm, and the first result you get is Emily Spencer. It was an infamous plot point so bad that the only thing people could do is say wife arm. I've seen many things in media described as a wife arm moment. It's just such a boring and bad plot twist that makes women not only damsel in distresses, but like things you should be invested in because they're women. I'm sure there's more in-depth writing and hinting at it if you read the logs you find around the levels of the game, but being interrupted by integral lore and writing every few minutes just to foreshadow wife arm of all things isn't doing you any brownie points when even the gameplay isn't that good. I think Bionic Commando, gameplay-wise, is extremely interesting, but also incredibly lacking. Its best element is the grappling hook and movement. From swinging to grappling, this game has moments where I was genuinely enjoying myself. Most of the time during combat, that isn't fun to engage with or interact with whatsoever. At some point early on, I just realized that I can ignore 90% of the combat encounters and just swing and grapple past them. And if I'm honest, yeah, the game was more fun that way. There's no reason for me to engage in combat until the game forces me to, so I just would focus on being as good at movement as I possibly could, and combat was an afterthought. And that movement, while frustrating because it really feels like you should be able to grapple farther away than what you actually are able to reach, did feel really good once I understood it. It doesn't make it a must-play game or something, it doesn't even make it up for the rest of the game design either. But I don't regret my time with it entirely. If anything, these two scenes I'm about to show you were worth the 3 hours it took me to beat this game.
How many people would have ended up in wheelchairs because some government fearmonger is afraid of a new technology?
You deserve a chair, Mag! But the one I'm thinking of doesn't have wheels. The bigger they are. Whoa, is that a long health bar, or are you just happy to see me?
Oh yeah, this game was only 3 hours. If a game is only 3 hours long and it's still not worth recommending, yeah, this game was a bit of a mess. This game doesn't truly deserve any hatred towards it, which it seems no one really does hate it, but it definitely deserved the ridicule it's received over the years. I give it like a 5 out of 10. It's kinda bad, but it's also kinda good. And it evens out to an incredibly mediocre experience that baffles me because this game would be the basis for Spencer's design in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Infinite. I don't know why he looks pale white in Bionic Commando but has melanin in Marvel 3. Seeing that his original design as a white dude with this hairstyle being dreads after originally seeing him in Marvel for over a decade with at least a tan kinda just throws me for a loop every time I remember it. Capcom partnered with another studio at the time, Airtight Games, a new studio that was formed from the team that made Crimson Skies for the original Xbox. There's a lot of interviews and information about not only this game, but the process and development leading up to release of this game. It's quite clear not only Capcom, but these guys making the game were really excited and passionate about the game. And it's a damn shame the game is so damn boring and bland, and has like almost no truly original ideas to make it stand out or interesting. Dark Void is a cover-based third-person shooter that clearly takes inspiration from Gears of War and Uncharted. It tries to be cool and have robots and Nazis because it takes place during World War II. I think the robots are also aliens and a weird Bermuda Triangle plot, and it just sounds generic saying this to you, so imagine how it feels to play. It had Gears of War cover shooting, Uncharted quipping of a white dude with brown hair, an attractive woman sidekick who's more competent than you, but also strong and empowering, and luckily enough, the people stuck in this weird portal in the Bermuda Triangle land, despite very clearly being of some sort of South American tribe, all speak English. Also, please don't take my comments on the female character here as like, acting like a strong independent woman is a bad thing. It's just so clear that they were moving with the trends at the time where the snarky hot woman who follows you around is also smarter than you and very frequently more capable than you. And that started around Uncharted's time. I love Uncharted, I love Elena, and all the other female characters in those games. It really fits Uncharted well, but just like Marvel dialogue, you kind of just see people trying to replicate it in places it doesn't belong or isn't as good. People try to be Uncharted with the jokes and banter, but they also seem to forget that you actually have to have good banter and dialogue and character development for it to really stick. The only thing interesting about this game is, unironically, just its gimmick. You can fly. Playing on PC, the flying is dog ass. Mouse and keyboard was just not in mind when they made these controls, and it's fine because sometimes you just can't bring these things between control methods smoothly. But despite this, it doesn't feel all that great to fly in this game using a controller either, because you still feel too sluggish and aiming still sucks. It feels like you get one positive without the other using either keyboard and mouse or controller. I played this game like 3 hours and I only got the true opportunity to fly near the end of that playtime, and I just got so bored I stopped playing it. The characters and plot aren't interesting. It felt like I had played this game a dozen times before, and even if it was generic, if it was actually good, I can see myself sitting through it to completion. But the thing is, nothing about it from what I played was actually all that bad either. Yeah, the writing sucks and feels like discount Uncharted, but gameplay was functional. It wasn't really buggy. It was all just so bland and unoriginal and uninteresting that I might as well have played just Gears of War or Uncharted or Vanquish, anything that is actually more interesting or what this game is trying to be. Dark Void scored lower scores on average than Bionic Commando, but only by a bit. Many reviewers and players felt this game was missed potential. The flying is a gimmick that's not thought out well enough, the enemies are unintelligent and not fun to fight, and its attempt at verticality is like a cool idea that also wasn't done well. Both this game and Bionic Commando have these cool ideas that just were not properly executed or expanded upon that could have made these games better than just mediocre or generic. I'm gonna also have to give Dark Void another 5 out of 10. While I had more fun with Bionic Commando, that game is far more flawed than it is bad. I couldn't enjoy the game longer than 5 minutes at a time, and I was frequently also just not enjoying the combat and became frustrated at times. Whereas Dark Void is just incredibly boring, with nothing sticking out in my mind. It wasn't buggy, it worked, it did what it wanted, it just didn't do it well. Giving this game a 6 out of 10 feels too generous because that implies I enjoyed my time with it somewhat. And 4 would mean I disliked it, when in reality I just feel intense apathy towards this game. I was bored through and through. I'm sure if I hated myself more I could play the game to completion, but I also value my time more than I value finishing this game. Asura's Wrath. This is probably going to be the shortest game to cover on this list because Asura's Wrath is less of a game and more of an interactive anime. I really like Asura's Wrath. It's got kind of dog-ass gameplay. The entire game is essentially watching cutscenes with QuickTime events, and then an extremely limited and frankly kind of boring base mechanics video game that if you put all the actual gameplay in this game into a single video, it'd probably be no longer than 30 minutes. The rest is QTEs and cutscenes. And despite that, Asura's Wrath fucking rocks. It's a great story with a great protagonist, and it's genuinely just so cool to watch. I love its soundtrack. I love how campy it is. I love its vibe. It's so unabashedly over the top that you can't help but have fun just seeing how crazy it can get. I won't really discuss the plot of Asura's Wrath beyond that, because the plot is genuinely worth just watching on YouTube, which is this game's biggest flaw. It's hardly a game, but that's not why Asura's Wrath is on this list. It's actually because Capcom sold this game for full price, and then sold the true ending later as a paid DLC. Nowadays, a lot of companies can just get by doing this sort of horrible stuff. It's become normalized almost. Not to say there won't be blowback and consequences, but a lot of the time, nothing happens. The true ending is just such a better conclusion for the game that it's so insulting that they pretty much sold you an entire season of an anime and then said, here's the last 2 episodes afterwards in order to squeeze more money out of you. Asura's Wrath's reputation was sullied by a scummy business practice for what could have been a cult classic for far more people than it already is. Ask anyone who likes Asura's Wrath, it'll almost seem like this was never a controversy, but at the time, it was such a big problem. It's all I knew about the game. A game came out I never heard of that they sold the true ending after to get more money. Why would I ever buy that? Especially as a 13-year-old who doesn't have much money to spend on games that weren't finished. But now that the time has passed, you can buy Asura's Wrath digitally on sale on the Xbox store for like $6 or $7, including the true ending. And better yet, you can watch the whole thing on YouTube for free because it's hardly a video game anyways. At the time, Asura's Wrath definitely deserved a lot of the hate it received. But now over 10 years later, when the game is cheap and really only accessible on Xbox as a modern platform, it's almost like the controversy didn't happen at all. I personally give Asura's Wrath a 7 out of 10. It's good, but it's hardly a game. If this game played like God of War or Devil May Cry or something and had more gameplay segments, I could give it an 8 or a 9. It's so unbelievably fun to watch, but it's not fun to play. You just press the button the game tells you to on screen intermittently and then sit back and watch. If it was just a game that had interactive cutscenes, I'd rate it higher too, because at least it isn't trying to be what it isn't. Visual novels don't have much gameplay, but that doesn't make them worse games or anything. But imagine reading a book and after 2 hours of doing nothing but turning the pages, suddenly you had an extremely basic and uninteresting Smash Bros. Clone with no depth. It's almost whiplash how much more I'd just enjoy reading the book. And that's what Asura's Wrath feels like. I'd rather just watch the show, man. If this game seems interesting to you, might as well just open up a video on YouTube and watch it like it's a TV show. It's like it was made for that purpose. Street Fighter Cross Tekken is honestly such an interesting game that I don't give the slightest fuck about. When it comes to fighting games, I've learned that I just don't like Street Fighter gameplay, and I don't care for it here in the slightest. But damn dude, this game's history is a car crash I couldn't look away from. And the worst part is that Street Fighter Cross Tekken wasn't even the driver. It was the innocent child in the back seat with a swirly lollipop and a propeller cap. And they didn't even know that their daddy Capcom was behind the wheel and committing to Satan's best joke. Drunk driving down the wrong side of the freeway without his headlights on. Street Fighter Cross Tekken is, unironically at its base, an extremely good fighting game. If you like Street Fighter, specifically a more Street Fighter 4 era entry, it's not the exact same, and technically is considered a tag game. If you ask me to play a Street Fighter game, it'd either be this, 6, or Third Strike. But considering the game was taken off PC for issues related to the old Microsoft game client games for Windows Live, it hasn't been put back up yet. And the game has no rollback netcode or many people playing it really at all, even at locals. This game is just perpetually stuck pretty much and will probably never get re-released or a revival outside of being put back on Steam eventually, maybe. So Street Fighter 6 and Third Strike are essentially your only valid options to bother learning because the game is not only inaccessible, its DLC isn't even accessible anymore either with the shutdown at the Xbox 360 store. The PS3 is still around, but that's still a different version of the game that most people don't really want. So the game functions, it's not buggy, it's widely agreed to be fun, and it's still controversial. So what happened? All DLCs on disc? Oh. Gems are pay to win? Oh. Yeah, so Capcom committed to more scummy and greedy business practices. Essentially, from what I know, all the DLC characters were essentially finished and on the disc, meaning that they took 12 characters that were finished and then sold them back to you at a later date after the PS Vita version of the game launched, which included all 12 of the characters right away and included a code to give PS3 players the DLC for free. This was only included in the first run of copies sold at retail outlets, meaning that you can buy this game twice and get the DLC on the first copy for free. Cool! That wouldn't piss me off at all! And on top of it all, the DLC gets worse. Excuse me if I get any of this wrong, as this game has a lot of misinformation about it because of anger and vitriol at the time, and it was honestly kind of a failure. I'm having trouble at the time of writing the script to find any proof of there being purchasable gem packs, but I know there was a pre-order bonus. So the purchasable pack could have just been the pre-order bonus sold again afterwards, but what I do know is that at launch, gems were either entirely useless or entirely broken. So a pre-order bonus that gives you an advantage was automatically a no-no in fighting game communities because having people make sets in a fighting game and also tournaments have to have all these possible gems on top of DLC characters on the disc made this game a nightmare. Fighting someone with a broken gem setup is just unfair online, and while the game's final big patch made the game actually pretty good, It still also factors in that no one uses gems because then there's too many variables. This game was just prematurely shot in the kneecaps before it even launched, with information of on-disc DLC being sold at a later date, and then cemented it more when it turns out you can pay for in-game stat changes that usually had to be unlocked or grinded for. But looking at it today, I can't help but feel this game could have been generational if Capcom just made a good crossover fighting game with Tekken without the monkey's paw curling. If you look at footage of this game played at small local tournaments, you can see just genuinely cool stuff that could have put this game up there with Street Fighter 4, Marvel 3, and many other games that, while flawed, are loved despite of it. And while Street Fighter isn't my thing, it's a lot of people's thing. When played without gems and after the on-disc DLC controversy has long passed, like Asura's Wrath, it's hard to see it as a bad game. It's almost depressing how cool this game can be, and how it'll probably never be truly appreciated for what it is now, and will always be remembered for what it was. A game ruined by Capcom just trying to make a quick extra dollar out of you for no other reason than greed. Every other company was doing stuff like this at the time, and Capcom doubled down on it, and never let up on it. And it killed what could have been a must-play classic and iconic crossover fighting game that could be up there with the greats like MVC, CVS, and more. Not to mention that this game was so controversial that it almost certainly is the reason Tekken crossed Street Fighter. Tekken's version of this crossover, which was announced alongside it, was cancelled. It was only confirmed to be cancelled in 2021, 9 years after this game released, and we've gotten 2 mainline Tekken games since, and even one with Akuma in it. This game was truly devastating when it released. But I think Street Fighter Cross Tekken is a solid fighting game today, and I give it an 8 out of 10. But that controversy, God, was it deserved. Raccoon City, oh boy, was I looking forward to this one. This game was the first game on this list I actively heard about and knew was bad. At the time of release, this game was getting horrible reviews and dragged through the mud. Bad AI, bad shooting, inconsistent or bad controls, unfun enemies, buggy, just everything you can say about a game that would be red flags in here is in these reviews. So I steered clear of this game, and honestly it seems most people did, because I remember being 13 to 14 years old and soon after launching, finding this game in bins and secondhand sales for $10. This game seems to have been a commercial success, selling over 2 million copies, but it also seems everyone agreed it kinda sucked ass and either sold it back to stores like EB Games or the remaining stock couldn't keep up. I always avoided this game even on Steam when it was cheap for years, and sadly, like Street Fighter Cross Tekken, I missed out on buying it before they took it down for sale. Thankfully, I could buy this one on Xbox 2 digitally, but it really put into perspective just how much I didn't know about this game when finally playing it. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City is bad, but I was also expecting a lot worse. This is without a doubt the worst game I've played in this lineup so far. No ifs, ands, or buts. Bionic Commando and Dark Void can easily be forgotten to time for many reasons. Street Fighter Cross Tekken is a good game, ultimately ruined by external factors outside of the dead team, presumably. Operation Raccoon City is another generic third-person cover shooter, but this time, it's not good. It feels bad to aim. It feels bad to fight anything. It feels bad, period. The best this game felt was using the shotgun, and it's literally because it's really easy to make my brain turn to goo when shotguns are punchy and deadly. This game takes place in a fan fiction scenario in an alternate timeline where Umbrella had like an entire military force to help them cover up the Raccoon City incident, and honestly, I really like the premise. There's a lot of ideas in this game I like a lot. If you die from an infection, you turn into a zombie and your friends need to kill you to revive you. Boss fights revolving around Nemesis and Mr. X, a weird theoretical ending where you kill Leon and Claire, playing as the bad guys in the iconic Raccoon City incident. Crimson Heads are back from the first Resident Evil remake. There's so many cool ideas that I can go into that I experienced during the playtime, but not a single one of them was actually fucking fun. The zombies are a cool idea. Zombies alongside normal gun enemies. Cool balance, you know, too bad the military are genuinely miserable to fucking fight against. Oh my god. The moment you stick your head out or are not behind cover, you are immediately lasered by every single enemy that is firing. Not like that matters though, because sometimes when behind cover, you just get shot anyways. If this were a normal game, it would have regenerating health, but it's Resident Evil, so you don't. So anytime you try to shoot back, you are shot by 5 different enemies, and then to top it off with the fact that most guns are extremely inaccurate, and your best bet is to either start running up to them and taking damage anyways for a one shot, or risk shooting at them from afar with an inaccurate weapon that takes too long to kill them. Every enemy feels so fucking inconsistent to kill. Some enemies will go down in a headshot or two. Some enemies require 3 mags to kill. Some enemies will struggle to hit you. Some will just repeatedly immediately infect you when they just happen to be near you, while others have to specifically get a good hit on you. Some zombies will bite you and you won't get infected, but one will scratch you in a frantic fray of chaos and explosions and you'll be infected. Lickers will die in a couple of bullets or your entire ammo cache, and then latch onto you across the level where you can't consistently shoot them anyways. Hunters don't die quickly, ever. And these BOW assholes are extremely mobile and never flinch. So anytime any of these things appears, you're just forced to take damage because your AI companions are useless. If anything, the AI companions are more than useless. They are actively detrimental. They stand in your way and you can't walk or shoot through them. If they die to infection, which they most likely will, you now have a more aggressive zombie on your ass that you can't kill reliably. This game was clearly designed with online co-op in mind, but I can't even see this being enjoyable in co-op because at its core, it is not fun to play. And yet somehow I played through it all. I was just about to give up. Then I looked up how many levels I have left, and I was just 1 level away from just finishing the game, so I continued it to completion, and boy was it not worth it. Because this game also has an entire other set of levels following the main game, pretty much selling you the other half of this game. I'm not buying that, dude. The game just progressively throws more and more enemies at you, and it just becomes more and more unfun to play. Every boss is even more of a bullet sponge than the average enemy, so every boss fight comes down to just either shooting them from afar and not engaging whatsoever, or walking in circles and shooting them until they eventually collapse. Eventually you just see Leon and Claire and catch up to them, and your goal is to kill them, and another cool idea starts. 2 of you will try to kill Leon, while 2 others will become traitors to Umbrella and try to save Leon, and try to get back at Umbrella for trying to make your team expendable and let you die in the outbreak and follow up nuking of Raccoon City. If you had a full group of friends, I can see that being pretty fun, but also, the game doesn't feel good to play or shoot or move or whatever, so fighting your friends for one little interesting PvP interaction after a pretty bad couple of hours just isn't what it could have been. The plot is extremely half-baked, it feels like everything is so loosely connected, things kind of just happen, and, well, you deal with them, I guess. This game just sucks, straight up. It's not the worst thing I've ever played, and if I'm honest, it's probably overhated. It's not as buggy as people made it out to be, at least not on my playthrough. I had a few bugs, don't get me wrong, but maybe patches fixed the game's bugs. You can beat it in under 5 hours and, well, it is playable from start to end without the game becoming a total buggy, broken mess, but at its best, it's extremely monotonous. The most redeeming thing about this game is that it could have been good. The only thing I keep thinking about when I was playing it is that if this was made in like the last 5 years and given a proper budget and was a bit slower or something, this game could have rocked. But sadly, we live in a world where it doesn't. This game is like a 3 out of 10. I'd give it a 4, but 4s are actually worth talking about with their potential. Whereas this game has so many ideas that could have been cool, but it's entirely hypothetical and requires a complete reworking of this game's very bones. The only way to fix this game would be to essentially start from scratch. I think 4 out of 10s could be fixed with some decent patchworks and reworking, and this game is just far too gone to truly ever be good. It's pretty deserving of all the hate and criticism it received, but it works, I guess. Not well, but it works. Resident Evil 6. At last. The true start of everyone agreeing that Capcom has become Crapcom. I tried playing this years ago with a friend, and by God, was it one of the funniest games I've ever played. This game, despite being widely hated, is fun to play. If this wasn't Resident Evil and just some action zombie game, yeah, the plot might be a bit ass and the characters a bit weird. It would be fun. It's not buggy or broken or unfinished. The problem with this game is that it is Resident Evil. It isn't just a random action horror game, and it feels like it completely misunderstands what people wanted. I played through the entire Leon campaign, then we started Chris's campaign, and it just got so boring and stopped being funny that we just never asked each other to play it again. There are people who will bat for this game being a great action game, and I can see that. People have really extracted all the intricacies out of this game's movement and combat to make a really cool game to play and visually. But that's the problem. After Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5 wasn't scary at all. Hell, the scariest thing was Sheva's AI. But it was an alright game, especially in co-op. It gets better, but it also means that playing Resident Evil 5 solo makes it a worse game. So with Resident Evil 6, the developers want to have every type of Resident Evil game represented. A more horror type campaign, an action campaign, a sneaky espionage campaign, and slow campaign. Then, whatever the fuck is going on in Jake's campaign. And this game is a pretty mixed bag when it comes to its campaigns. Leon's is frequently considered the best, but that's because it's just trying to be more like 4. And while it's still not even half as good as 4, it's at least kind of fun in co-op. But it's still just Resident Evil 4 on steroids. Constant explosions, crazy melee attacks on zombies like suplexes and exploding their heads with elbows, RKOs, and trust me, these things are fucking fun to do, but it's not Resident Evil, dude. It's so over the top, excessively action focused. It's hard to believe that this game is in the same series where in 1998, Chris and Jill just got stuck in a mansion in the woods and all the zombies were slow or dogs, and you were terrified to even have the zombies be close to you. Instead, all these zombies are being grabbed by Leon and Chris and their friends by the face and slamming them into the nearest wall, exploding their heads into nothing but a fine mist. So mechanically, Resident Evil 6 is a fun game with obvious flaws, but its biggest sin is being Resident Evil. Even for what it is, I didn't like it very much, and every amount of hate it's received is entirely justified as an entry in the Resident Evil franchise. But as a game looking at it on its own, it's really not bad. As a Resident Evil game, it's definitely like a 5 out of 10. If you play this game not knowing what Resident Evil is, you'd probably like it. A lot, actually, but the problem is that if you know what Resident Evil is, this game is literally just an action movie starring Resident Evil characters, the franchise, as a supporting guest. It doesn't even get the excuse that Operation Raccoon City does, where it's not canon and you play as armed to the teeth, sort of military personnel, so the action set pieces and explosion are justified. This was a mainline title, where you run away from a tanker explosion that explodes so hard that the explosion is throwing cars at you, while you outrun a collapsing bridge for almost a whole minute. It's comical. It's fucking hilarious. I couldn't write a better joke than this. So I want to give 2 scores. One for as a game on its own, and one for a Resident Evil game. 7 out of 10 for as a game, and 5 out of 10 for a Resident Evil game. I enjoy playing this game, but it's a guilty pleasure. It's so funny that I genuinely think every Resident Evil fan should play this game just for a laugh of one campaign or something. I don't think you're gonna regret it in co-op at all. God, this game is probably even more controversial than Resident Evil 6. This was actually the first time I ever heard of Devil May Cry because I didn't have a PS2 growing up. And my friend in grade 6 told me, dude, you gotta check out this Devil May Cry reboot. It looks so good. And I had no clue what Devil May Cry was or that there was a reboot. I saw the trailer, I thought it looked alright, and nothing I would really be interested in, and moved on. Little did I know that 5 years later, I'd be going back to this game after DMC5 dropped to see if it really was as bad as it was made out to be. I originally played the PC release of this game because I didn't really want to buy the special edition re-release on PS4 and Xbox at the time, and I very much like playing my hack and slash games at high frame rates, and I also kind of just wanted to see it in its original form when it released. I heard special edition improved the game by a decent amount, but we'll get to that later. The footage here is actually from the special edition because I wanted the best quality footage I can get, but I only played it for this video for about the first level, and controversial opinion for someone who is such a big DMC fan, I didn't hate it. Sorry, I mean it, I know. This game is hated, but I think the hate is overblown these days. At the time of release, put yourself in the shoes of the average Devil May Cry fan. Your favorite series is getting rebooted by a Western game developer that is trying to take DMC from a campy gothic horror demon hunting game with an over-the-top, cocky half-demon twin who likes to make quips and stupid jokes while having a layer of sadness underneath, to a game that's just grotesque, edgy, and vulgar. Dante and the writing around him is often mistaken for just being a funny guy by outside viewers who haven't played the games. So not only is Dante just misunderstood by the average person, but now he's being described as a gay cowboy and being replaced by an even gayer emo asshole who doesn't respect women and sees them as things just to fucking have a good time with. They were rightfully pissed off. The writing in this game is atrocious. So atrocious, in fact, in the special edition, they butchered their cutscene pacing by actually removing some of the worst dialogue. I was actually surprised because I was quoting the scene as it's so poorly written that I find it hilarious, and they got rid of the funny part because too many people called it cringe. I didn't even know that until I started recording.
The world is at last your bitch, as am I. Nothing left but to grab it by the hair, bend it over, and... What's the matter? What's the matter? The world is at last your bitch. What's the matter? What's the matter?
After that comparison, obviously the scene now is just less cringy and a lot, honestly, needlessly vulgar. It also completely ruins the flow of the scene, and I find it genuinely hilarious that they felt so insecure in their writing after people made fun of it that they would honest to God ruin the entire flow of a scene and act like it never happened. There's a lot of that in this special edition. They got rid of Virgil's trilby because too many people called him a fedora incel neckbeard, and honestly, he still is without the hat, man. But is the game actually good? Separate from the plot and writing? Honestly, it's really damn good. I have a lot of problems with it, of course, even in the gameplay department, but they were seriously remedied in the special edition enough that I'm willing to play this game again one day just for the gameplay. There's a great video by the Gaming Brit Show that I almost completely agree with. It compares Metal Gear Rising to DMC, and DMC at a gameplay level is just better than Metal Gear Rising. But the reason Metal Gear Rising is so beloved, but DMC is so hated, is because it tries to be everything the original 4 games were, but throwing them to the side and directly disrespecting its roots.
Not in a million years.
Metal Gear Rising is kind of a really whatever hack and slash game. I like it, but it's not all that interestingly in-depth if you ask me. It's got great set pieces, great characters, great writing, and on top of that, it's cool as fuck. Metal Gear Rising has the goddamn Senator and Hideo Kojima writing, whereas DMC has squirrel semen and sniper rifle abortions. Yeah, if you didn't know about those, sorry, both of those are real things in the reboot. So, which one do you think is going to have much more cultural impact? Because it's going to be the one where every scene is played so straight, so campy, yet so funny and able to swap from cool to funny on a moment's notice, and not the game that cuts to Mundus fucking his demon wife while her literal skin bag is slowly falling off her body. Fucking disgusting, man. As a game, DMC gets an 8 out of 10, but every cutscene deducts points off of it, enough to bring it down to a 6 out of 10. Some of those cutscenes are so bad they are hilarious, and I'll quote them till the day I die. But I'm not laughing with it, I'm laughing at it. Unlike actual DMC, where I'm laughing with it every goddamn step of the way. Honestly, I don't even know what to say about Lost Planet 3. I couldn't stand it. I played the first Lost Planet just over a year ago, and I thought it was so uninteresting that I got bored and stopped playing before I got to the 3-hour mark. It's not a bad game, it's just clearly another example of Capcom trying to make a Western-inspired third-person shooter with a Japanese twist. And it had some interesting ideas that were just not interesting enough to enjoy in the modern day, for me at least. If I had gotten this game near launch, I'd probably have played through the entire game and thought it was really fun, but as an adult nearing 20 years after it came out, the game is in an extremely saturated market and pretty bland because of it. Just like Dark Void and Bionic Commando and Operation Raccoon City, I played dozens of these games already throughout my life. There is nothing interesting about their gameplay because everyone has fucking done it by now. At least in 2006, Lost Planet 1 was honestly at the front of the genre, at least even though I hear no one ever talk about it. It definitely has its fans, and it has good reviews even from people playing it in the past few years. So despite what Lost Planet 1 achieved, Lost Planet 3 is just a generic third-person shooter that has a grappling hook, is made by a Western dev, and the grappling hook is unironically just worse and less interesting than the first game in every single way. The protagonist is a generic white guy who loves his wife and kid and does work, and it's just so fucking boring. I genuinely have nothing to say about Lost Planet 3 because there is nothing to talk about. You pilot a mech in first person in this one, who cares? Just play the first game, dude. At least that game had some cool ideas that it actually did well. Lost Planet 1 might not be the best third-person shooter single-player game around, but if that's what you're looking for, you'd be better off there than anywhere near Lost Planet 3. 4 out of 10. Dead Rising 3 is a confusing title for me. I used to think it was just fine, but after going through Dead Rising 1 and 2, I get why people don't like this game, but I also don't think it's that bad. The main protagonist is a little bitch who constantly whines. They removed a lot of what made Dead Rising, like guiding survivors to shelter, the bright and vibrant colors, the comedy, no time limit, and they just got rid of a lot of the friction that made Dead Rising's game design work. Off the Record added autosaves in the game, which I like a lot, because dying once in 1 or 2 because you were on your way to the save or accidentally got into a bad situation and lost anywhere from 30 minutes of gameplay to an hour was a bit too unforgiving for the average person, me included, but working around it is still really fun. It forces you to memorize the map, and there's so many things around that exploring the mall and the areas in the Fortune City Strip is rewarding. You will find where the bathrooms are to save and where to get specific weapons or tools to craft weapons. It's all very genius game design if you ask me, and I fell in love with it, specifically Dead Rising 2. Having a time limit makes you learn how to route and get around as fast as you can, and get everything done on time. If you're good at time management and know how to get around or fight, this game is just incredibly fun. So removing almost all of that for an open world with cars, uninteresting landmarks, and city streaks, boring interiors, and in general a very dull color palette that doesn't grab the eye, Dead Rising 3 just doesn't feel very Dead Rising. While I give Dead Rising 1 about an 8 out of 10 and Dead Rising 2 like a very solid 9.5 out of 10, Dead Rising 3 is more like a 6 out of 10, because even though it gets rid of a lot of what makes Dead Rising on its own interesting, it's still a really fun zombie killing sandbox that eventually I'm gonna play and beat on my own time. Just a shame that the PC port is really bad. If you're gonna play a Dead Rising game, just play the first 2 games and Off the Record, which is just 2 again but remixed with extra content and stars Frank West as the protagonist, because they're genuinely great games, and while 3 is disappointing, it's not a war crime or anything. I think a lot of the criticism about it is very justified, but again, like I said, it's still a fun zombie killing sandbox. Kinda hard to go wrong with killing swarms of zombies with rocket-powered gloves. Street Fighter V. This game is probably one of the funniest games on this list because it would be best described as a rags to riches story. This game was horrible on launch. No content, bad online, no arcade mode, small launch roster, connection issues, among a myriad of other issues. Looking back at the launch of Street Fighter V is like going downtown and seeing the guy that used to pay for your lunch stand up for minority groups and stop boys from sexually harassing girls in high school is on the side of the road, homeless, and begging for money, and when you try to help him, he tries to rob you. It's incredibly depressing. But thankfully, Street Fighter V is that same guy, and after he tried to mug you, he eventually becomes a mostly functional member of society. He still tried to stab you though. Even in the footage I recorded for this video, you can still see Street Fighter V's online was not up to par. While the numbers for this game are roughly in the 200s on PC and however much are on console, I still struggled to find any players with crossplay enabled. It took me several minutes to find a match, and when I did find a match, the online connection was really poor. Street Fighter V has always had rollback netcode, and if you don't know what that means, in short, it's a form of connection between 2 online opponents that makes the game feel more like you're playing offline than older delay-based netcodes. If you've only played Smash Online and it feels like your attacks are delayed, that's because they are. The internet is only so fast, so rollback predicts inputs preemptively, and when done right, it doesn't feel like you're playing online at all. Games like Guilty Gear, Under Night, Street Fighter VI, and among many other fighting games have it, and they all feel great to play, but even as time has gone on, and Street Fighter got more and more content, its online rollback implementation has always been poor, to say the least. But if you're a Street Fighter fan and play this game with either a friend or offline locally, Street Fighter V, as bad as its launch was, is a good game now. It might not be for me, but once again, this game was pretty well loved through its ups and downs, and the game was never ever worse than it was on launch. So, as it is now, after years of fixing, rebalancing, and adding content, Street Fighter V, as kind of ass as its online is, it's so far improved over that horrible state that it launched in that I can't help but give it a positive review. But out of everything on this list, I think this is probably one of the worst and most deserved games to hate on at the time of its launch. It's like a culmination of every single problem Capcom had in their previous games to this point, put into one absolutely horrible product. I give launch Street Fighter V a solid 2 out of 10. It's downright unacceptable, and anyone who was a Street Fighter fan at the time deserves every Capcom employee responsible for making that game launch in that state to grovel on the floor in front of them and beg for forgiveness. But you know, now it's like a 7.5 out of 10. Far from the best Street Fighter game out there, but sure as hell can't go wrong playing it locally. Umbrella Corps. God, I technically couldn't actually play this game. It's a multiplayer shooter first and foremost, and the only single player content it has is like a tutorial and a mission mode that is essentially the same thing for an hour and a half that doesn't really test your skills. So you kind of just run in circles killing zombies, picking up sample drops from them, and that's it from what I played. I played it for 30 minutes. I think this game really isn't that bad. Don't get me wrong, it's bad, but this game has some of the worst reviewing scores on this list, and mind you, I'm not praising it. Watching footage of this game being played online just looks like a generic third-person shooter that you'd find for $3 on Steam. The problem is it was, again, a Resident Evil spin-off that was sold for $30 that has no single-player content and was actually designed to be an esports game of sorts. If you and 6 friends hopped on this game and started shooting each other in this game, I don't really understand how it could be bad. But it definitely isn't holding up against any other shooter that was released at the time before it or after. I get they tried to make it an esports game, but it's better to just look at this game as a failed attempt into multiplayer shooters at all. There isn't any great ideas in here, but the shooting is snappy and responsive, it's not really buggy, the melee attack is seemingly a really strong option, and a lot of reviews talked about how annoying it is to deal with. But when you make a game that's esports focused without single player content, and your multiplayer isn't even that good, well, your game is doomed to fail. The game's player base on Steam didn't even last a week. I can't even praise this game because it shouldn't be that hard to make a multiplayer shooter. We have literal decades worth of examples and things to take from, and Umbrella Corps just didn't do anything new, and it had no content for $30 damn. Like, think about that. Think about what $30 can get you, not just now on Steam, but in 2016, especially on sale. $30 for an already bare-bones third-person shooter that has the shelf life of already curdling milk is just not worth the price in the slightest. If this was some sort of free-to-play game or $5 to $10 on launch, I could see this game literally just lasting 2 weeks instead of 1 week before its player base fell off a cliff. There's not much else to say. 4 out of 10. This is definitely a bad game, and since it was bad, it's not even playable anymore in the way it was intended, without making your friends buy it or somehow come in contact with the other 3 people who are some reason playing this game on their own accord in 2025. Even if it's functional and the gameplay functions exactly the way it should, and you enjoy shooting your friends in this game for 30 minutes, that's all it's worth. And why would you spend money on Umbrella Corps at any time after its launch in 2016, especially today when you can spend $10 and play Lethal Company or something? It was just bad value and not well thought out. It's far from being like an outright bad game in like a gameplay sense, but when you immediately kill your potential right out of the gate by being mediocre and expensive, I think it's at least deserved its fate. Oh, Dead Rising 4, oh boy, I don't even know what to say about this game. It's bad, but I don't hate it. I'm just extremely apathetic to the game. Call me a bit jaded, because I am. But I'm genuinely so used to games I love a series becoming dog shit, and after playing so much genuinely mediocre to bad games in a row, getting the Dead Rising 4 just felt like I was running straight into the pit of being sick of this shit. Dead Rising 4 followed in Dead Rising 3's footsteps by committing to not listening to actual fans of the series, and instead just getting rid of what everyone actually liked about this series. It was advertised with, "Frank is back! That's right, the character you guys love is back, and he's voiced by a different guy now and doesn't even act like the same guy. He speaks and makes jokes like he's from a Marvel movie. He's constantly making one-liners and horrible jokes and quips and has to get the last word in
with others." Oh, well, shit, that's never been my strong suit. Just kind of stuffy in here, don't you think? A little fresh air, you know. I really thought that would work.
Frank West in the first game was cocky and confident and maybe a bit of an ass, but he was genuinely trying to do the right thing and helped out the people who needed it while exposing a government conspiracy and cover-up. Frank West in the 4th game is just trying to be Nathan Drake and MCU Iron Man in one. He's so full of himself, it's just agonizing to hear him say anything.
Hey, buddy. My scene. Beat it.
Oh, you're Frank West. You're the hero of Willamette. Look, hey man, name's Darcy. We should totally work together, you know? Share the story.
Right.
Seriously. Hey, you have to meet my girlfriend. Editor. Paula. She's got a podcast. This really popular podcast. She's been investigating these Obscurus guys for weeks.
Obscurus? That's the name of this outfit?
Yeah. Paula's an expert on them.
You know, actually, I would love to meet your girlfriend. Where is she?
I think she's at City Hall in Old Town. Yeah, go talk to her. Shit, I can't wait to see her face when she hears I got Frank West working for us. Damn!
Yeah, it's gonna be great. See you around.
A lot of people always say this sort of criticism as people change, so characters can too, and I hate it. Because my god, I don't care if Frank West is back if he's changing such an unenjoyable douchebag. Not to mention the plot of the game is also incredibly frustrating. This girl Vic gets you to teach her photography, you go back into the town in the first game to take some photos, and find another plot involving zombies, and Frank, and as annoying as he is, he's just entirely right. They got all this photographic proof of them making zombies after they cured it already, cloning people in order to make armies of zombies, and Vic is so mad that she has to burn the whole place to the ground immediately and loses her cool. Shoots a zombie and gets them caught and becomes some sort of anti-zombie vigilante terrorist and fucks everything up. It makes you not want to sympathize with her at all, and after playing for an hour and a half, I just couldn't stand it. Gameplay was just Dead Rising again without any of the nuance. Is it fun to kill swarms? Yeah. It's honestly mindless fun and really impressive how many zombies they managed to get on screen. But it means nothing when there's no time limit, no guiding survivors to safety, no specific save locations, among so many other things that made those 2 first games instant classics. I didn't experience many bugs, but I did experience bugs, and I feel like if I played the game for any longer, I probably would have had a compilation because it seems very easy to just break something in this game. Dead Rising 4, for all intents and purposes, is a shallow husk of its predecessors, with not a single original or interesting bone in its body. The only thing this game does right is giving you a zombie-killing power trip, and even that couldn't keep me interested for all that long. Dead Rising 4 is by far the most dogshit game on this list, but even the other games on this list are worth discussing on why they are bad or mediocre, were bad but now better, or even good or great. Dead Rising 4 just does not need to exist. Reading any sort of positive review for this game pretty much talks about how this game is mindless fun. Even that just feels too generous to this game, because I hope you like being mindless for 10 hours. Because at that point, you might as well just get a lobotomy. You'd get the same experience for longer. 3 out of 10. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. This is technically the last game on the list, widely considered the endpoint of the dark age of Capcom. While there were obviously decent games released by Capcom between 2009 and 2017, hell, some of them are even great games. It can't be understated just how bad some of these games really were to the brand of Capcom, and to people's expectations of Capcom and the games they loved. And I think none of them encapsulate how truly inconsistent and confusing this era was more than Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I'm gonna be real with you. This game fucking rocks. I genuinely love this game and always have. This isn't a gotcha moment or a fake out. This game is genuinely so fucking fun. If you think this is a bad game, there's a good chance you have either never played it, don't know fighting games, or just accept what everyone else has said about it. And what people were talking about? Yeah, this was some serious dog shit. If there's one thing you never want to do, it's piss off the fighting game community. Fighting games are already niche games that do not appeal to most people, and the people who like your games, if you treat them right and just put out a good game, they will support you no matter what. This is why Street Fighter Cross Tekken is even on this list. People today will talk about how it's pretty much good now and it has merit. Street Fighter V had that really bad launch, but when the game was actually fixed and improved and was supported by Capcom, and they listened to their players, people like Street Fighter V now. And yet Marvel vs. Capcom is still recovering from how bad everything surrounding this game was, and I think it's a damn shame. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and 3 are generational titles, so Infinite had a lot riding on its reputation. And Every trailer put out for this game, every preview, every interview, and new detail made this game seem worse and worse. First, the graphics are honestly pretty ugly. From Dante's horrible face model making him look like he hasn't seen a day without meth and heroin mixed together in years, to Chun-Li looking like a cartoon gag equivalent, as someone being mistaken for Chun-Li until they turn them around and they are like a fucked up ugly version of them. She looked so bad, they had remodeled her completely after the backlash. Then it was revealed there would be no X-Men in this game and everyone had a meltdown. No X-Men? In Marvel vs. Capcom? No Wolverine, no Cyclops, no Storm, no Magneto, no Sentinel, no nothing? You might as well just say we made your favorite meal a beautiful medium rare steak, juicy and seasoned to your liking. But also we took half of it and replaced it with a microwave pizza. Once it was known this game would have no X-Men, it was immediately torn to shreds. Capcom was on full damage control. People they had speaking for them were trying to make it not seem as bad as it was, saying that the character itself was not important. It was the archetypes and their moves that were important. And with all due respects to this dude that said this, he was just trying his best to not be in a bad situation and flip a positive outlook on it. But anyone knows if you like the character in a fighting game, and the next one comes out without that character in it, you're less likely to play it or be interested. So downplaying the fact that a character as iconic as Magneto to Marvel vs. Capcom's history wasn't in it, and was technically replaced pissed off so many people. Marvel vs. Capcom literally started off as a game called X-Men vs. Street Fighter. Marvel vs. Capcom is literally just a miracle game as it was from a bygone era, and anyone knows the iconic image of Cyclops and Ryu shaking hands. The fan art of this interaction alone has held this community together for decades. So when you make a new game and act like not having the X-Men isn't a big deal, your reputation was dead before this game even launched. And then on top of that, the launch roster of characters was not only tiny, it was so clear that Disney got their grubby hands on this. Disney at the time didn't own 20th Century Fox, and almost certainly didn't want any Fox-owned movie properties in this game. Ask anyone, there's a good chance they'll actually blame Disney for the way this game came out. Because the X-Men were owned by Fox and Disney wanted this to be connected to their cinematic universe thematically, you can see this by how they have Hawkeye, Gamora, Black Panther, Black Widow, Ultron. And don't get me wrong, I think all of these characters in Infinite fucking rock. I think they're all incredibly fun to play and play against. I have no problem with them being here. But when the roster is this small on both sides, even after DLC in comparison to 2 and 3's catalog of character options, you can't help but be disappointed that the biggest franchise in crossover fighting games that was known for having insane amounts of characters suddenly only has 36 after DLC? Yeah, this game had 6 DLC characters, half of them releasing only a month after launch. So yeah, thanks for having these DLC characters ready so close to launch and then selling them back to us. Again, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 had 56, and then Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had 48. And then they had the balls to have one more Marvel character than Capcom characters. Every time I boot this game up and see this character select screen, I notice this Marvel character in the Capcom side, I get so mad. This is graphic design 101. It looks so bad. Why? Why have one more Marvel character than Capcom character? Marvel vs. Capcom, all the way back to its roots, always had a perfect 50-50 split for the respective rosters. It made it so cool, it fit perfectly. What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Not to mention that this game had so much expensive character skin DLC, so much effort put into monetizing this game that they dropped support for it in under a year. And oh my god, the special edition. The actual statues in the special edition are great, dude. They're not the best statues ever for the money, but they are really high quality, and I would love to have these. And check it out, you get the Infinity Stones. They look so cool. Holy shit! Dude! Imagine buying the collector's edition and opening this up expecting like shiny little plastic replicas of the Infinity Stones, and instead you open it up and you see you accidentally collected the 6 Infinity Easter eggs. So everything leading up to this game's launch, to everything after it, this game was on fire the entire goddamn time. And on top of that, ArcSys also was releasing a tag game, which are typically inspired by Marvel vs. Capcom, for Dragon Ball Z, that not only looked good, was good. It's what people wanted. And Infinite lost in its own genre that it helped create, and almost every single inch of this hate and ire was deserved. From the graphics, to the roster, to the press, to its very release and greed on top of it, to external forces and mishandling, and on top of it, Capcom just being a pretty shitty company at the time. Infinite was doomed to fail. But was it a bad game? Nope, fuck you, this game rocks. Active tag system is so cool. The Infinity Stones add so much cool variety to your two-character synergy, and the actual characters, movement, and everything feels so damn good to play. I don't care if this game is ugly. I don't care if it doesn't have an insanely huge roster. Even if I wish it did have a bigger roster. I don't even care if this game doesn't even have the best online, because it's that fun. Monster Hunter is one of the most fun fighting game characters I've ever played. If she doesn't come back in another fighting game one day, I'll have known the goodbye note I wrote last week should have been found by someone, because life isn't worth living if this is the only fighting game that this character will ever appear in. I genuinely mean it when I say that this is still such a good fighting game that you should play it today whenever it goes on sale for like $5 with all the DLC. You genuinely can't go wrong. Yeah, it's missing a lot of the appeal of the older games by not having the X-Men, and I'm sure those people still miss them, but anyone who's actually played Infinite will tell you this game is so damn fun. Growing up, I was a huge Marvel guy, but as time went on and around 2015, I started actually truly playing more and more Capcom games. I've shifted to not even giving a shit about Marvel in this series, and yet it's the only MVC game where I actually have a Marvel rep on my team. I love Dante from DMZ, and he's widely considered one of, if not the best character in the game, and yet I changed him out for Venom. Venom is so damn fun in this game, I can't not want to have him on my team. I'm genuinely so mad that this game has such a well-deserved bad reputation around it and wasn't supported, because this could have been also one of the best fighting games of all time. It's obviously held back by a smaller roster and wasn't supported long after release and so many other things, but holy shit, it's so fun! And it just goes to really show you just how bad Capcom really was during this time, that a game that is actually this fun can have such a bad reputation around it that people still have refused to play it to this day. The online works even better than Street Fighter V's, but people were playing that for years after it because it was supported. Infinite had better online, and no one knew because no one fucking cared, because why would I play such an ugly game with no characters and especially no X-Men? I'm not even strawmanning. Why would they want to do that? Because if no one is playing your game, you're not going to get online matches. I'm not even being contrarian when I say this. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is without a doubt the best game on this list, and it's not even close. It hasn't aged poorly. If anything, it's hardly changed at all. Its gameplay and systems are great, and it's honestly pretty well balanced. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is getting an unironic 9 out of 10. Yeah, it doesn't have X-Men. Yeah, it doesn't have a big roster. Yeah, it doesn't have good graphics. Hell, even the music isn't even that good. The models look like ass. The UI looks like it was thrown together in a couple hours, and despite everything, I had so much damn fun. Every few months, I ask my friends if they want to play Infinite, and they almost always say yes. I asked my friend to get footage for Infinite, and he didn't even flinch because Infinite is that fun. We don't even have to be good at it. I'm way better at other games, and yet, if you ask me which I had more fun with, Infinite or Dragon Ball FighterZ, which I put over 100 hours into, I'm choosing fucking Infinite every time. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is not a bad game, but it sure as hell was an extremely poorly handled one, with probably no budget and restrictions that made it worse than it ever should have been. And I'm praying for the day we get another Marvel vs. Capcom game, dude. Buy Infinite, and get the Infinite and Beyond mod made by Maximilian Dude and his team of modders to make it actually look good and have cool music remixes, among many other things, and you'll immediately see that under all of this gross art direction, there is genuinely such a cool game beneath it. So, were the Capcom Dark Ages really that bad? Yeah. Was there some nuance to the conversation? Also yes. Something I realized when going throughout all these games is that the worst offenders were the ones where Capcom was specifically so greedy and going against everything that made them so beloved in the first place. Even in their worst titles, there was some Capcom charm in there. Just a little glimmer of hope, which is very impressive. Despite that, fuck these games, dude. I'm going back to modern Capcom, where they make nothing but good games, and there's no doubt about that. Dragon's Dogma 2? Dude, that game was fantastic. I love that game to bits. It was my game of the year of 2024, and I can't wait to talk about how much I loved it. Oh my god. It's like the Dark Ages never left.